Welcome to Lincoln Log, where we speak with leading historians and other officials about their stories, research, and wisdom. Expand your knowledge and indulge your curiosity here on Lincoln Log. This podcast is produced by the Abraham Lincoln Association, aiding and promoting Abraham Lincoln's life and legacy. Founded in 1908, the ALA remains the nation's oldest and largest Lincoln organization. Learn more at abrahamlincolnassociation.org. We are thrilled to welcome Nigel Hamilton, a distinguished historian and senior fellow at the McCormick Graduate School of Policy and Global Studies at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Nigel is the acclaimed author of Lincoln versus Davis, The War of the Presidents, soon to be published this year in 2024 by Little Brown. His work offers a riveting comparison of the leadership styles and challenges faced by Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis during one of the most tumultuous times in American history. Nigel, thanks so much for talking with me today.
Oh, I'm honored to be coming to meet you in person and your Lincoln aficionado colleagues.
Yes. Your book has I expect will captivate readers with an insightful analysis of two pivotal figures of the Civil War. Your prior books, which I'm familiar with, have been excellent. I expect nothing less of this as well. What inspired you to explore the unique juxtaposition between Lincoln and Davis?
Well, originally I was only going to write about Lincoln as commander-in-chief in the Civil War. Military history and military biography is really my field. And I'd spent 10 years looking at FDR as commander-in-chief in World War II. So I thought I'd use the lens that I developed for narrating Lincoln's life as commander-in-chief. And I thought I was at Gettysburg, actually, and I was sort of rather haunted by the battlefield still today. And I thought, I turned to this young historian friend of mine and I said, Lincoln at war. So I was originally going to do just Lincoln, but my wife is Creole and comes from New Orleans, where we winter, and we drive down. And it became very clear that I'd made a huge mistake, that the real story that's never been told was the contest between these two individuals, one of whom is a politician, basically, and the other is a born soldier. And how do you manage in those circumstances where, by virtue of the United States Constitution, the president is the commander-in-chief and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the country? And so looking at how Lincoln, who really had almost no real military experience, how he was able to tackle probably the most destructive war in American history on American soil, I found, all biography is based on curiosity, and that aroused my curiosity. I wanted to see how each of them fared. And I think it is quite a Shakespearean story. Because they are such contrasting characters. They're both the same age. They both set off for their inaugurations, Lincoln and Davis, on the same day. Mm-hmm. I think it's a fascinating duel, if you like, in wartime, with huge consequences for this country. So that's how it began, and I'm fairly pleased with it. We'll see whether the general public is.
I'm sure they will be. Well, with the Abraham Lincoln Association's annual banquet coming up, I'm sure attendees there are very eager to hear about your findings. You touched upon it a little bit here, but can you give us a sneak peek into perhaps one of the more surprising discoveries your book might reveal about Lincoln's leadership?
Well, Joshua, I should point out that I'm going to talk about Roosevelt and Lincoln. I'm calling it Roosevelt and Lincoln Presidents at War. So in the talk, I'm not going to be really talking about Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. I'm going to be looking at Lincoln as Commander-in-Chief, but in contrast to another president who
Roosevelt.
also faced Franklin Roosevelt, who also faced certainly the most devastating war in human history, and who obviously had more experience going into the war, having already been president several times. But I was again found myself, when I was asked if I would give this address to your association, I thought, you know, I've spent 10 years of my life looking at Franklin Roosevelt as commander-in-chief, and I've spent another 3 or more years looking at Lincoln as commander-in-chief. I'd like to see the difference in the way that they handled
Right.
that responsibility in the White House.
And I guess this is a good moment for me to point out that I was remiss to do at the beginning, that you are an excellent Roosevelt scholar who has published quite an important book on that before. And so now you're following it up with one on Lincoln and Davis as well. So it seems like there's no one better to analyze that juxtaposition and comparison than you. I'm sure it's going to be fascinating.
Well, I hope so. I'm certainly looking forward to it. And I want to use, I think for the first time, an unusual lens, and that is Plutarch. From 2,000 years ago, this Greco-Roman biographer invented a way of telling life stories called parallel lives. And he would take one Greek in history and then one Roman, and he would first tell the Greek story, then the Roman story, and then he would compare them and contrast them.
Mm-hmm.
And as he was doing that, the difference between the two men, positive and negative, would become clearer. I mean, they're beautiful works. One, I mean, because he's very personal kind of narrator of these stories. So obviously, I'm a very small person to step into Plutarch's shoes, but I'm really looking for it. So nobody's ever done that before. I don't think anybody's actually ever compared Lincoln as commander-in-chief with FDR as commander-in-chief.
Mm-hmm.
There have been many other comparisons in terms of the Constitution or religion or whatever, but just in terms of the warrior, the two,
right,
by definition, the commander-in-chief.
Well, as I've said, I think your presentation will be the highlight of the banquet. We're really looking forward to it. Beyond the historical analysis, is there anything you hope attendees will take away from your talk? Perhaps any modern day applications?
That's a very interesting question, because obviously
Slightly loaded, but
well, when I began the book 3.5, almost 4 years ago, you know, there had been a new president elected, beginning with the letter T, but I don't think anybody expected there to be a battle of the presidents today. Two United States presidents. Yeah. So it is pretty extraordinary that I've been spending these past few years writing about two presidents, one US president and one Confederate president fighting each other. Yeah. Yes. I think there will be many comparisons to be made there.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, fascinating as always. We're really looking forward to diving deeper into these themes during your presentation. Nigel, thank you for giving a glimpse into your work and what we can expect at the banquet. For anyone intrigued about these issues, I think you're not going to want to miss Nigel's presentation. I encourage you to join us at the Abraham Lincoln Association's annual banquet on February 17th in Springfield, Illinois. It's a great opportunity to gain insights from Nigel, who is one of the foremost historians of our time. For more details and to reserve your spot, please visit abrahamlincolnassociation.org. You're not going to want to miss this engaging evening of history, leadership, and lively discussion. Nigel, thank you so much for joining me briefly to plug your upcoming presentation.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Lincoln Log. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. And if you like this podcast, please consider rating it on iTunes and leaving a review. This helps other people find the show.